All right, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to the filler episode of the podcast where we are filling in uh, FC Construct for Toronto.
Yes,
Basically the same.
yes.
So, yeah, today we'll be talking about snake oils, all the different kind of snake oils. Feel free to bring up some of the snake oils that you want us to discuss. But I think before we start, I have one item on the agenda that I want to bring up with Anthony.
Uh-oh.
Anthony, you know how we are now sponsored by UM, right? Why does the AD banner on YouTube not have a mask?
No. This is like UM ghosted me. I wanted to buy. They ghosted me. Okay, so it looks like I'm not getting my first hi-fi after all.
He actually hasn't responded to me either. I think he hasn't been he hasn't been on social media either. So I think he's just kind of
I guess
MIA.
it's easy. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I thought my first G5 ever would be something with like with a bang, but I guess not. I've not bought G5 or not that I recall.
I'll get him to I'll get him to respond to you. I'll get him to respond to you
I'm
soon.
just, I was just
But I
joking,
think
man.
now we
Like,
need to
I
proceed
think
with
he's
our
busy.
snake.
I think he's really busy
We
because
need to
like
proceed
I
our
think it was
snake
a house
oil
move or something.
audio. Probably, yeah. I think he was moving
Yeah.
states.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess it'll take a while.
Great. So let's move on with our items for discussion. So snake oil. I know there are a lot of snake oil different myths and I guess assumptions in audio, summit five stuff like that. I think one of the more general ones is more money equal more better. So more money in cables, more money in dApps, more money in IEMs equals to better. So we'll probably like to discuss some of the stuff pertaining to some of this. I think one of the main things everyone sees is upgrading of cable. So when you upgrade the cable, there's a lot of different components inside the cable. People like talk about 4 cores, 8 cores, purities, monocrystal, the different materials. There's copper, there's silver. I think what's that, QDC? Since Rush is not here, I can shit on QDC. QDC. They took 18 months to make a new cable with palladium inside. So I don't know how that's gonna work out, but maybe we'd like to have some thoughts on different kinds of cables and how do they actually change sound and do they work and is more money more better. Maybe would like and to start.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm a materials engineer, and unfortunately, I didn't study metallurgy that much. But I did take a lot of classes in metallurgy. I mean, obviously, when you change the metal, each metal is going to have slightly different conductivity. But we're talking at like the micron, like micro microamp like level of conductivity. But that said, I think there are some small changes you can possibly get with some cables on versus others, and I think a lot of it has to do with the headphone or IEM that you're using. So maybe something that's super sensitive to impedance might react slightly differently to cables than others. For the most part, though, I'm semi-skeptical, but I have an open mind for it. I have.
Yeah, I noticed you use the Kinfobi cable for
I know.
your math.
Yeah, I use cheap Chi-Fi cables for the most part, or I make my own cables, and I basically just use kind of off the shelf, like standard copper for cables that I make at home. I have noticed impedance changes over the length of a cable, so that is a thing. Your impedance will build up over as the longer your cable is, and I've seen that actually affect the super sensitive like Campfire and Visioneer IEMs, and also the unique melody mest. That one's pretty sensitive too. So cable length, at least for my measurements, I've seen some changes. So I can't throw out that cables don't make a difference, but I think for most things it may not make that big of a difference. The other thing that I've heard people talk about is like, there's you have your cable, but then your cable goes into a solder joint of some sort, and your solder joint's going to be made of some probably not expensive material. And then you have like all the metal and other materials that are in the driver itself. So there's like a lot of other things that impede the conductivity of your product to begin with. So I don't know. That's a long-winded answer of nothing.
Good point. Yeah, your equipment is only as good as your weakest link.
Yeah.
All right. And
That's a very good one. That's a very good one.
So you have not heard a difference between, I guess, the materials of the cable or maybe the different core counts of the cable, but in the length of the cable. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about Ken?
Well, scientifically, definitely with longer cable length, impedance increases. I think that's hard science there. Material wise, hard science is on conductivity. Pretty much silver, top, copper, whatever, gold, palladium, they are actually much lower conductivity. Okay, I won't say much, but they're lower conductivity than copper. So for me personally, I don't think all this snake oil materials is positive for me from a science standpoint of increasing conductivity. But well, I guess people use different materials to so to speak color the sound. But before that, I think there's one very one very important bottom line point that I want to make is like you mentioned the weakest link, right? But I personally feel that I think I mentioned in my previous in our previous episode that if your transducers are good, then pretty much you shouldn't have a great you shouldn't hear that great difference with different cables unless your cable is broken. So if your cable is broken, yes, please change it. But I don't think any cable can change something that is utterly garbage, to be good, to be great, like so. But yeah, I mean, if the stock cable happens to be really really bad and but the transducers are good to start with, and you think the sound is good, and you want to get better cables, sure. But pretty much it's just like with sources, right? If your transducers are cheap and bad, then well, you're not gonna get much return buying very expensive sources. Your transducers definitely give much more improvement if you upgrade it. But for folks who are pretty much at end, so to speak, end game point, and they just want to roll other components, then I guess by all means. Or some folks are, I think we went through that in one of our episodes, whether their transducers first approach people or their source first approach people. So if their source first approach, then they know what they're doing, then it's fine. If they do not know what they're doing, then well, all the best to them.
Have you personally heard a difference in cables?
Yes, I do, which I cannot explain. That's the thing. But typically, well, I'll boil it down to impedance, like what Ann mentioned. I mean, there are some that I do measure difference on my measuring rig, but usually it's very minute differences. I get more differences by changing source actually. So I still think that unless your cable is broken, it should be the last thing to look at. Of course, like I think most of us here are either in a state of endgame or pretty much know what we want, or we're at a state that like we pretty much got most of the stuff that we want. So for that said, then well, if most of the money had really been spent on everything else, sure, you can look at cables, and if it works for you, why not? But some folks don't care. Like I think N doesn't care whether it's a $1,000 cable or $500 cable or $50 cable, as long as it works, right?
I care about how I use it, if it's usable or not usable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some cables are just not usable,
Too stiff.
Yeah,
Stiff
too
audio.
stiff or their cloth hangers and whatever, you know, it's just like a stiff rod, then it doesn't really function what it's supposed to do very well, right?
Yeah. So here's a case. A couple weeks or maybe a couple months ago, actually, at this point, I was measuring. So my desktop rig is kind of interesting. I have a bookshelf that's a couple feet away from my actual desk, and so I actually have I run XLR from my amp from my bookshelf, and it's like a 9-foot XLR cable, and then it goes to my desk, and I made this XLR adapter, I guess, that basically just it hooks to it's a male to female type thing, so I basically have like a little jack that's built into the bottom of my desk. So it has like a 9-foot run of cable, and the cable I think I actually made myself using some other cables that I kind of spliced together. I noticed that when I was measuring some of my IEMs, that I was getting really weird looking graphs, and I basically determined that that cable had some ridiculous amount of impedance. It had like, I don't know, 8 or 10 ohms of impedance.
You have some shitty splicing skills.
Yeah, well, I was using a cheap I basically used a really cheap, I think RCA cable, and I cut off the ends and I stuck XLR cables to it because I really liked the feel of that cable. It was really thin and pliable. But yeah, then I was like, oh, this is not good. So I ended up buying a little bit better quality, like professional XLR cable, and the impedance is like back to normal. It's like 1 ohm or so. So
Yeah.
that made I was like, wow, that was a big difference in cable change.
Yeah, but it boils down to like what I mentioned just now, right? If your transducers are good, then it shouldn't have a correction. Or you say that if they're well designed, they're properly designed, they should not have a completely wonky impedance curve that a couple of ohms will kill the entire tuning.
I feel like you're throwing shade on a certain American company right now.
No. I'm just saying in general, right? Because there are a lot of IEMs in the market. Well, they may not have completely flat impedance curve, but at least it's not all over the place. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, let's face it. Even V8 vision years, the impedance curve isn't fantastic. You know, like if you have a slightly higher output impedance source, you will even lose more treble. You know, so I measure it. It's actually pretty obvious.
Yeah.
It's very obvious on that. Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, the VE8 was where I discovered that XLR issue. When I was measuring that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is really weird.
Okay, fine. Certain German company.
No. So it's not. We're just using that example, right? But like, I would like to say a lot of IEMs in the market do not have a very good impedance curve. And well, that's a big problem, isn't it? So going back to my point where I say about design. So I mean, a couple of ohms is fine because like some sources, well, even very expensive sources like AK and stuff have 1-2 ohms output impedance. So if your cable is not like 10 ohms, you should be fine. You know, like if your cable is like point whatever, okay, maybe let's say your cable is 1 and your source is 2, so you have 3 there, which is not great. Yeah, but a decently designed transducers shouldn't get like completely out of whack.
Okay, so
Because-
I think we're detracting a bit from the main point of cables and going more into the other components and stuff. So let's just assume that we have good transducers that are, I guess, manufactured and tuned properly with the right, I guess, impedance curve, would then I guess, $300 copper cable really compare to like $1,000 copper cable? Is it snake oil, or is there something inside? Like people say, wider sound stage, better bass texture, better treble extension. All of this makes sense. Are these real things, or is it just a marketing gimmick?
I think it's pretty much snake oil 90% of the time. But well, I mean, some people can hear great differences. I can't. I have to really scrutinize.
About this experience thing, what about FC construct? Have you heard any difference in sound quality, in sound stage, anything like that when you change cables?
So I'm not as experienced with like higher end stuff, so I can't comment on the cables thing because I don't bother to like try to search out like great cables sort of thing. I guess my comment though is like from a more theoretical standpoint would be, I understand like scientifically speaking, it's like metal versus metal, like is there going to be a difference? I don't know enough to comment, but from a psychological standpoint, like if you truly believe your $500 cable gives you magical properties or real properties over your $20 cable, and you do appreciate those properties, then all the power to you, right? From a like psychological standpoint, of course, the question becomes like, how much do you want to pay for that improvement that may or may not actually exist? So
I think you brought up a good thing. The one point about buying expensive cables, it could be Stockholm syndrome, buyer's remorse. I don't know, something like that.
placebo effect.
They want to believe that the thing they bought justified, and then they sort of trick themselves into hearing the difference. I don't know. I'm just speculating. That could be one thing. I guess.
Go ahead.
To sum up the views of the three of you is that should not be a major difference. Even if there is, it's very, very slight. So I guess there is probably no point in buying like a $1,000, $2,000 cable. Is that it?
Yes and no. I mean, it's a hobby after all, right? So I mean, if some folk have a $5,000
But from
idea,
I guess from an objective point of view, there's not much difference.
Well, I mean,
if you
let's
put it this way, though.
on.
If you like I don't know, if you truly believe, okay, or let's put it this way. So I think I was like reading some article that like people who have like red cars believe their cars go faster.
Yeah, it's like I stick a movie on my car and
That's true.
10 more power to it.
Yeah.
Hey, Ferrari's cars are red, okay? But like, so if you like from a placebo level, or even just psychologically speaking, like if you believe your car is red and it makes your car go faster, and you get enjoyment out of your car being red, and you perceive it to go faster, isn't that worth however much you have to pay to make it red? I'm not saying the price performance is good or anything. I'm saying that from a buyer's perspective, if they truly believe that is the case and they are willing to shell that out, it's worth to them, then what's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's
I guess that's the whole thing about audio. It's how much people think it's worth and how much they're willing to pay for it. It's actually the same for everything.
It's the same for everything.
The one thing I want to just point out, I guess maybe just to boil the whole thing down, is sonically, objectively, scientifically, and whether you can measure or not, it does not make too much of a difference. Say that?
Yeah, I agree.
But value is subjective. Like so if it makes you happy, then spend the money. Then it's I guess
the bigger problem, $2,000 cable for sure.
The problem with this is like someone comes online and like, oh, my $2,000 cable is great, and try to justify it. It's like, no, there's no need to. If you spend $2,000 on a cable, you love it, all the power to you. But like there's no need to to tell someone else that they should, buy your $2,000 cable to get the best out of that equipment. I think that, yeah, that's another whole can of worms there.
Yeah, I think I don't have a problem, I guess, with people if they have the money and they want to spend it. So I put this $3,000 cable from Effect Audio, which is in Singapore. So you guys are the shady Singapore people with these $3,000 cables. But like I've seen people on HeadFi mostly basically saying like if someone disagrees with their opinion on a headphone or IEM, their immediate reaction is, "Hey, you need to buy this Effect Audio or Knoll Audio or whatever, some $1,500 to $3,000 cable, and that will fix all the problems with the headphone." And without even knowing what the problem is, they'll just like say, "Oh, this will fix it." And that's what I think bothers me more so than people wanting to spend the actual money on it.
You notice that although it's a Singapore company, price is in USD, right? Singaporeans are too smart for that shit.
Okay, I think that's a very important point. It's like when I tried Violet, I thought it was good with the stock cable. I tried it extensively before I switched to my own cable, and I like it more with my own cable. I don't tell people that if you hate Violet with the stock cable, you will like it. But if they're my friends and I'm with them, I'm like, yeah, sure, you can try my cable and tell me what you think. But yeah, if they hate it, then yeah, they don't like it, right? There's no way. I mean, it's unlikely. I would say it's unlikely for a simple cable change to like, oh, I hate this, to be, whoa, I love this. So I think there's a difference there between
It won't dramatically change the sound, but it might
it won't
implement it a little bit depending on cable rolling, like I say. But then the thing is, such an expensive $3,000 cable, is it worth it? Is still basically up to the person who's buying it, whether it makes a difference.
Yeah, of course, it's very subjective hobby. As long as you're happy buying it, all the power to you. As long as you're happy buying it, that's the very important thing there. But it's like when people come on to Discord or whatever, and like, hey, I have $1,000 budget and I want to spend $500 on a cable, $400 on a source, and $100 on a transducer. It's like, hey, hold up there. Like I don't think that's objectively the best thing to do. But if you try that combo, you love it, okay. But like if you are, if you have no clue what you're doing, no clue what you're buying, and you're coming online to us, then we will tell you, please don't do that.
But Ken, you can get the Atomotic ER2 XR for $69 right now. So and we know that's like one of the top IEMs on the market. So it's not that out of the question.
That's if you want to hurt your own ears. Yeah. So to move on, I think someone in the chat brought up quite a related topic to cables, which is then balanced versus single-ended. I know this one not just it's not just the effect of the cable itself. It can be the source, how they do the circuitry, and yeah, correct. So it's mostly the source, but I guess in general, what are the benefits of balance versus cable, and what are some of the the myths people tell you when they say, oh, balance is better or single-ended is better?
Let us smash those myths today.
Go ahead. So the floor is yours. Whatever myths you want to bring up. I think one of the main ones is, noise floor.
And you want to start first, or
you want me to start? I can start.
Go ahead.
So my opinion, this is just my opinion, is if you buy an amp or a DAP or whatever that has balanced, more than likely it was designed to be a balanced amp, and a lot of times they just kind of put something together and make it single-ended. Now there's exceptions to that, like for example, like the Massdrop THX 789 desktop amp, which is very, very popular. In that case, they made it a single-ended amp, so with the 1/4-inch cable, and then they just slapped on an XLR just to make people think that they have balance when it's not really balanced at all. So there's some exceptions, but for the most part, a lot of the balanced DAPs, for example, since we're talking IEMs, they, in my opinion, sound better when with balanced and single-ended, but there are some exceptions.
What are some of the different, I guess, advantages and disadvantages of each, plus the misconceptions that people generally have?
I think the advantage of the hard science portion, I guess, is what balance is. You get less noise because you have because it's grounded on each side. So if you have longer cable runs, you're gonna have less noise from and better shielding. But that said,
More power as well.
yeah, you get more power in a truly balanced setup. You have 1 or 2 amps powering each channel versus just 1 amp powering lead left and right. So in theory, you get more power, or in a lot of cases, it's double to triple or double to quadruple the power depending on your impedance. But yeah, you also, even though you get that advantage from like a longer cable run, a lot of times balanced amps are noisier, just because you have more. I think it's because you just have more amps. If you have like a very poor noise floor on your amplifier to begin with, you'll get more on the balanced side just because it has more power and it's raising the gain, so you'll hear any internal amp noise more so than you would on the single-ended. An example I have is right in front of me. I'm actually using the iFi Zen DAC, and if you use the unbalanced output, there's no noise floor at all. But if you use the balanced, it's very, very audible, and to the point where it's quite annoying.
So what about Ken?
So like we talk about the THX-M, right? I think another example is the Loto S1. That is, from at least from my discussion with a few actual electrical engineers, and it seems that it's actually a single-ended design, and they just slap on the balance side at the end, so it's not a true balance design. But because it's still implemented pretty well, it's not a problem. Just like the THX. So,
S1 is cucked.
no, I think it's an intended design because they don't want to draw too much power because it's portable. It's a dongle. That could be one of the reasons, but the sound is still pretty good. So it's not a very poorly designed source. I mean, it is possible for a truly balanced design to sound utterly like crap too, because like what I mentioned, you may get double the noise floor if it's poorly done. Your output impedance can be higher, it can be double.
It's usually double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really depends on the design. I actually read some spec sheet that the balance actually lower, or some they made it pretty much the same. So it really depends on the design. But yes, in most cases, balance have more power. But is power really required? Oh, okay. One of the thing that balance will help is crosstalk. But well, if it's a well designed single-ended, your crosstalk is minimal as well. Not to the point that you can differentiate. So it really boils down to the implementation.
Yep.
Rather than balance is better. Like, there are very good single-ended stuff out there as well.
Yeah.
Right,
So
I think from my own experience as well, the only main difference I hear between, I guess, single-ended and balanced is power. Also, sometimes balanced is a little bit more sensitive as well. Get the hiss, I can hear some of the electronic interference, stuff like that. Other than that, unless I guess, as you guys said, one of the circuitries is cut, then there really isn't too much of a difference.
yeah, I think like for the exceptions I've heard where balance has a noticeable audio change is like my Sony DAP where the 4.4 millimeter just sounds a little bit bigger and cleaner, I guess, than the 3.5. And then I just got the Kawan Plenue
Which
2.
Sony that?
Oh, the ZX507.
Did you reformat the SD card 6 times?
Yes, I did, actually. No, just kidding.
What?
You have to use a very special Windows software to
One of the snake
format.
oils that we'll talk about later if we have time.
Yeah. I also got this Kawan Plenue 2 Mark II, and it's got 3.5 and 2.5 millimeter. I got it yesterday, so I haven't listened to it quite a lot yet. But I noticed that on the 3.5 millimeter, single-ended, it sounded a little bit more warm and compressed. And then when I listened to it on balanced, it sounded a little bit more open and less warm, more neutral. And I don't know if that's just like a placebo or not, but I did look at a couple reviews from other reviewers out there, and they had the same impression too. So
Someone just said on YouTube comment that Sony is cooking their single-ended. That's why the balance is better.
But there's also depending on how they design it, whether it's a whole separate circuitry. You know, there are designs that are completely separate, so they don't care much about single-ended. So I mean, in this case, then yeah, that could be the case of Sony.
I think Sony has like their like proprietary capacitors, but that only is used when you're using the balance mode, if I remember correctly.
So I guess it all boils down to the source rather than the cable for this part.
Yep.
I think so.
Okay. I think someone asked about then the i5 match. Does that work? Because I have no idea how that works. I think Ken has some experience with that. Yeah,
IE match.
IE match.
Yeah. So just now when I talk, I gave an example where your source is output impedance of 2 ampere and your cable is 1, so it adds up to around 3. So the IE match on or the ear buddy has, I think, 2.5, 2.7.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the IE match has two mode, right? The high sensitivity and the ultra. So I think the ultra is 1 and the other one is 2 point something. So that's why I use an example, right? Like if it goes higher than 3, then you have a real big problem. But below that, your transducer should be good enough to not have too much of a negative change. So for IE mesh, I think it's mostly to lower the hiss for stuff like Andro or any other very sensitive IEM. I think it's more of that, but I think many users have reported a significant drop in dynamic range. For me, I don't think it's that great, but if I don't have to use it, I don't think I want to add additional component in my chain. But if I have to use it, I don't think it's a big problem. There are other issues that are bigger if you need to use an IE mesh.
Correct. Okay, so I guess this is a good point for us to move on to then probably our next topic, which is, I guess, my favorite one, which I'm also very vocal about, which is burn-in. We're not talking about speakers here. We're not talking about headphones here, because I know speakers, I guess, has been sort of that burn-in does work for speakers. I don't know. I think it does, but for IEMs, does it even make a difference? Every time when I get an IEM, people tell me, "Oh, you need to burn in for 200 hours, for 500 hours, 100 hours before it sounds like angels." My point would be, why the hell does the manufacturer not burn it in for you so that when you get it, it sounds like angels from the start? Am I right? Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Hey, Carob, or FC Construct, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I will say when I very, very, very first started this hobby, I kind of like bought into like the burning thing, And like the very first IEMs I got, some $20 like Sony thing. I plugged it into my computer, let it burn for like 4 days before like listening to it.
Did it burn out?
Well, I listened. Well, I did listen to it beforehand, and then I listened to it afterwards, and I didn't really see a difference. And so I'm like, man, that was 4 days wasted. So I don't really care.
Well, if you had put it on your stove and on a frying pan, it would have been a little bit faster.
Yeah, maybe. No, I don't know. I feel like I think burn-in is just one of those things that like people they kind of like they can kind of like logic it out. Like, oh yeah, it theoretically like maybe it makes sense, but from like is there like a significant difference, I guess, is the real question. I think on a molecular level, maybe like if you burn it in longer, like your driver shape like changes a little bit, the composition, well, not the composition, like the structure of it at a molecular level might slightly shift. But once again, I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, are your ears even sensitive enough to hear that? And it's weird. You mentioned the speaker thing. I find it interesting that in like the speaker world, there's a lot like these things that we're discussing, like cables, maybe USB cables, power conditioners, burn-in. Like these are a lot more amplified in that space. But for IEMs, I feel like personally, I haven't really felt too much of a difference. So I'm gonna
I
pass
think
on.
a lot of the snake oils, the myths, the beliefs, they come from the speaker world. They trickle down into the IEM. That's, at least for me, that's what I see. So I think the myth and maybe where this burn in comes from. One of the theories I saw is also from speakers, because I think last time they said that something that speakers you need to burn it in so that, because the components are big, so you need to get them moving so that they I guess get into their, I guess, working condition sort of condition. So, but then the thing is, IEMs are so small. Does it even matter?
I think based on just like what I mentioned about cables, right? So I so far when I go audition speakers, I help people buy speakers and whatever. Even live speakers, we're talking about huge speakers that are like half your body size. We don't care that much about burn-in, and like if it sounds bad from the start, then it's very unlikely after burning it will sound great. So just like cables, if the default is bad, then unlikely it'll be good. But if you say, hey, it's good to start with,
has come across, I mean, I guess threads on some forums or Reddits that say, oh, it sounds like trash at the start, but after I burn it in like 200 hours, it sounds beautiful.
well, if they measure FR change, then I do measurements and I do notice FR change on certain things. Is that burn-in? I do not know, but I did get a bit of here and there, but did it change drastically? No, we're just talking about 1 dB here and there. Could it be the driver being worn out more than burning in?
Well, that's still within the tolerance of the system.
Yeah, correct.
The rig itself has a 2 to 3 dB tolerance anyway.
Correct. So, I think the difference is insignificant, just like cable, if there is any. And I think you made a point there about trickle down from speakers. Unfortunately, as much as I don't want to say, but speakers, I actually hear more difference with two different set. Like I actually compared speakers side by side that are brand new in box and older. So I don't know whether it's unique variants, but there's slight differences. But is it to the point that it's completely different? No. That's the point. And for IEM, right? And we're talking about burning in. If you can't put in like 1 watt per channel through it, and well, I guess you can, but that's the last time you can put it through. So, like how long do you need to burn in, and how much power do you need to burn in for the driver to not die, not to be worn out. What, 20 seconds? I don't know, but
I guess
and
the theory is that you need to warm it up to get it working in the optimum condition, sort of like exercise. When you start out, it's just a weak pleat, but then if you exercise every day consistently, you become One Punch Man.
yeah, then the case is, instead of burning in with like funky whatever files that you have, why not just burning it in by actually listening to it? So
Sounds like shit at the start.
So
just use it, right? And
Yeah.
why if you actually want to burn in, why would you want to use things that you don't listen to? You should burn, if you believe in burning, you should burn in using the songs you actually listen to to make your so-called, make your driver customized to your songs.
Doesn't make sense.
So from
mean-
from my standpoint as a materials person, I find it kind of, I could see maybe when you get something directly out of the factory and there's like adhesives or other things that are not separated correctly, I guess is the right term. And drivers have adhesives, and you use it very first time, and like a dynamic, does its motion. First time it breaks up any bonds that are left behind. But from like a raw material standpoint, there's a thing called Young's modulus, which is like the stiffness of the material. So all materials can plastically can deform up to a certain yield point, and then if it's below that yield point, which is in a lot of cases a lot of load, like you have to put a lot of load to get like a metal to yield. It's like bending a sheet of aluminum. I don't think that's gonna happen with a couple milliwatts of power. If you don't get it to its yield point, it's gonna relax right back to its original shape, and nothing changes at that point. And if it does go past its yield point, then it's at the point of it's starting to fall apart and break. So that's for like a metal. Most drivers aren't metal, but there are some dynamics that are. And then for like I guess most of the dynamics that we use in our IEMs are probably like PET or plastic base. It's the same thing. Once it deforms, it's gonna change completely. But to get it to the point where it deforms is gonna require a lot of heat and load. So I don't see like, you're either deforming it or you're not deforming it. But if you deform it, your sound's gonna get completely screwed. So
because you broke the driver, right?
yeah, essentially you're breaking the driver. And if you haven't gotten to the point where it yields, then it'll just go right back to its original shape.
Yeah, so like you mentioned about adhesive and stuff. So I mentioned maybe 20 seconds. Like what like
Right.
you just play a couple of songs, right?
100 hours, yeah. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say you need
Wear and
hours.
tear
Let's
on
just
the
say-
driver rather than of making it in the optimum state to play your music.
Sure, I mean, you need hours, then yeah, listen to it. Whereas as you burn it, there's no point. You buy something to enjoy. You don't buy something to put it there. Like, I mean, well, you can, but like if that's your hobby, so all the power to you. There's some people who buy stuff to benchmark, right? Be it computers, or like you buy a car to benchmark the top speed. Sure, but if you buy it to enjoy, then you should listen to it.
Which brings me back to my point. If burn-in does work, why do the manufacturers not do it?
It's just think, oh, maybe just think, oh.
It's because it's because you have I guess you guys don't have a return window, but in America you have a return window of like 14 or 30 days, and if you have to burn in for like thousands of hours, then you're not going to make a return window.
That's
Ooh.
makes sense.
Wow, that's some big conspiracy theory there, boy. But yeah, it makes sense completely.
And then
That's big brain.
Out of the four of us, I say snake oil. What about Ken?
Snake eye. I mean, like I'll just listen to like my own music as it. If I buy it, I listen to music, I enjoy it. If it becomes better after that, great. If it doesn't, I like it in the first place. So why does it matter?
So FC construct.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I haven't heard it, so I don't know.
If you haven't heard it, then it's snake oil, right?
Yes, but I mean, like at the same time, have I experienced everything? No, but from my perspective, it might as well be.
Your
Like,
experience so far.
I'm not going. Let's just put it this way. I won't go out of my way to say that I need to burn in something for like 1,000 hours before I can write a review on it.
I'll take that as yes, it's snake oil for you. Anthony?
I think it's burn in as possible for the first minute or two.
Yeah, that's same as me, right?
Here's my question. On the flip side, can you get driver failure from too long of a burn-in? Or is driver failure usually something completely?
Yeah, but isn't burn-in technically just turning music on for a while? Or are we talking about literally putting a lighter to it?
No,
Yeah, but construct. You're saying if you put 1 watt through or what? Or regular burn-in, right?
No. What I'm saying is like not okay. Maybe the word burn-in is wrong here, but like say you use something over a long period of time, right? You have wear and tear. I know like there's some headphones and stuff that's been running for like 30 years or whatever, like the e-stats, but do you think it's possible that like on the reverse side, you use something for a long enough time and then
Yes.
the driver fails because you're quote unquote burning it in?
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, that's fatigue. So, everything has fatigue issues. So constant vibration over or tensile compression loading over a long period of time. I mean, materials can only last so long under that type of thing. Yeah.
In my field, I call it mean time between failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why earlier I did mention instead of burning in, is getting worn out. Well, of course, the lifespan of most transducers, I mean, if you don't have major QCU issues, it should be pretty long. Well, you just mentioned about headphones lasting 30 years, right? So I don't think it's easy to kill something. But like what Anne mentioned, yeah, if you put 1 watt into something that on the spec sheet that says 100 milliwatt maximum handling power,
yeah, if you're overloading the system, sure.
Yeah, overloading.
Yeah.
Just to go off on a tangent about the headphone lasting 30 years, I think stuff that were made back then lasts longer than stuff that's made now.
It's true in appliances for sure. I'm looking to buy a new microwave and I just got it a couple years ago.
My old washing machine lasts 20 years, man.
Yeah, my old washing machine lasted 30.
Yeah, my new one only lasts me 2 years and it's breaking down.
Yeah. Don't tell me that. I just spent a lot of money on a washing machine.
Yeah, okay, so I guess we are done with burn-in. General consensus is actually fact. Don't do it. You're just gonna wear out your drivers. Okay, so I think we have a request of sorts from the floor. SD card.
Oh jeez.
Yes, SD cards. Do you want to bring
snake oil for me? Complete garbage snake oil to me.
From someone who sent a vid, I guess.
I think we need
Sony
one.
Okay, you know what's the most interesting thing? I don't even play most of my music from SD card because my internal memory is big enough.
You need to reformat your internal memory then.
Yeah.
I can't because it's the OS is on it.
So for people who
I
don't
have
know what
actually
we're
reset
talking
it,
about,
right?
people who don't know what we're talking about, maybe Anne would like to bring them up to speed on, because you're the one that brought my attention to this.
Well, yeah, okay. So there's been a lot of talk about this across the board, but more recently, there's a very popular internet forum. If I say too much detail, then I'll probably call out specific people, so I don't want to do that. But there's a popular forum on the internet talking about a specific DAP, and there was about 3 or 4 weeks of literally nonstop discussion on different types of SD cards and how they rank, what type of soundstage and bass impact they create, and then literally people went out and bought literally every single type of SD card out there and started ranking them, multiple people. So there's actually like Sony apparently created an audiophile SD card in like 2014 or 2015 that now is like, I don't know, 350 US on eBay for like a 64 gig. But yeah, so apparently the end result of this major test, besides, I don't think anyone tested the Sony one, but the SanDisk Extreme Pro is the number one SD card because it gives you like gigantic soundstage and visceral bass impact and whatever. And then like,
there's also
yeah, and then
way that you reformat the card and a specific
oh yeah,
amount of
yeah.
time.
No, yeah. So that was the start. They just ranked SD cards, and then they started talking about how you format it to make it sound better. So I actually have this software, and I downloaded it before everyone else like talked about it on HeadFi. So I didn't buy into this. I just got it because I needed to format an SD card. So the SD card. They have like this, organization that kind of goes over like the standards of SD cards or memory cards in general. They created it's the SD Association. So there's a SD card formatter you can get for Windows, I believe only, and it does a low level format of your SD card. So I had it because I needed to format like I think Android EX3 system card back to like a normal Windows FAT system. But these guys started like testing how many times you need to run it through this formatting software, which does a low level format, which could take hours to do. So they were like, I think they optimized it at 3 of these, and then you run it into your Sony player, which has its own formatting thing. That if you don't, for whatever reason, and I noticed this when I first got the thing, is if you don't format it in the Sony player before you start putting files on, it may not read your files. And I don't understand why, because it's just a normal Android.
Hold up.
Here's my issue with that thing. So if I reformatted the optimal number of times,
Yeah, 3.
3.
But then you have to put it in
and
your
then-
Sony thing and format it 2 more times.
And then if I want to change the music in my SD card, I can't do that because then that would screw it up. Buy a new one, put new music on it. That what you're saying?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Wait, hold on.
Did I lose you, Ken?
You just said that you need to format different format, right? You can do that within Windows itself. You know that, right? Or you can't.
No, I did. No, okay, yes, but
Like you don't need additional software unless you are doing some obscure stuff.
I was doing obscure
Like-
stuff. I was trying to root the Pioneer app at the time using
Okay.
it was
But,
using
like,
using
the
a
SD
Unix
card-
system. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean the UI, the default GUI only allows you certain formats, but the rest can be done with command line. And if you're not doing whatever that's supposed to be with the command line, then I guess you need a specialized software. But back to the original point, you have a music player, and the music player has an option to format the SD card. Why is there a need to not format with the software that comes with your player, which is guaranteed, well, if it's not a broken player, to have the highest compatibility and not have any issues with your card?
It's not about compatibility, but more on the sonic
Yeah.
improvements.
if you don't
Yeah,
use this
but
software,
if
how are you gonna get the best Sonic capability, Ken?
Wait, but hang on a
Come
minute.
on.
You just said that you still need to format on the player one last time, then you can use the card, right? So what the hell is? Why do you need to format like 20,000 times on your computer before you?
Each time you format
with
it, the
your player?
soundstage doubles. So if you want it to be 3 times the soundstage, then you need to do it 3 times. I mean,
What?
come on, don't you have any common sense here?
So yeah, I guess
Oh.
Ben is the only one with Sony that now.
And-
Ben is the only one with Sony
And
that, right?
the deeper of
No,
a
I'm
format you
using
do,
an
the deeper the
Android.
sound. The deeper of a format you do, the deeper the bass response is.
And have you tried it?
No, I haven't tried it. Well, so what I did, what I did was I ran measurements. So I basically plugged my DAP directly into my interface, and I ran a sine wave sweep of a sine wave file on SD card, and I compared it directly to a sine wave file measured on the internal card, because they were saying the internal memory. The internal memory had a different sonic output than the SD card. So I was just trying to compare that, and there's like basically absolutely zero difference. If you zoom in to like the I don't know micro decibel level, you can see like little spikes, but that's probably more just random noise than anything.
And
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I have done measurements on my internal memory and on my SD card as required.
Yeah. But so I posted these.
There's no big goddamn changes.
Yeah. So I posted the measurements on there. No one replied to me except for one guy, and he's like, "Oh, but did you try it without an SD card in? Because that will change the sound too." Like measure the internal without SD card, because that will change it too. So I concluded that I am not going to post measurements on that thread anymore.
Well, I think what you need to do is buy a fresh SanDisk SD card, go through the motions, format it 3 times, then 2 times, then put your music on, and then tell us if there's a difference.
Yeah.
Because your SD card is old, it doesn't work anymore.
So I'm not a software or computer engineer, obviously, but from what I understand, music, when a music player loads music and plays it, it puts the file into a buffer, which is your RAM, I'm assuming, and then it plays the music directly from RAM.
Yes.
So if you are loading files, no matter what the source of the file is, it goes into the internal RAM of your player or your computer or whatever. So I don't quite understand how that makes any difference. But
yes, I mean I'm in the technology line, and that's just utter bullshit. I mean, when you talk about 20 years ago, where certain devices are quirky. They when you go down to the hex edit level, and yeah, sure, they are broken format tools out there. We're talking about 20 over years ago, but like now, seriously, if you're
making sense if it's optical drive, the old hard disk, a real hard disk, physical one, not like the flash memory that we're using now, could see that maybe making some kind of sense, but not for flash drives like this SD cards and internal memory stuff.
Well, I mean, okay, for flash memory, there's cluster alignment, so I'm not gonna go in there in that, but your player accepts an SD card, it should be able to format your SD card properly. If your Windows machine has an SD card, then or your Mac has an SD card slot, it should format properly. But you have a player, so you're gonna use the card in your player, so you format using your player, or you can just use it out of the box, and you'll be fine. I mean, when I talk about like formatting software and all that stuff like matters, I'm talking about FAT12 there. Okay, I'm talking about floppy disk, where yes, certain stuff don't recognize. We're talking about 20 over years ago. That's real problem. Today, no, this is utter garbage, utter rubbish.
Utter garbage for Ken.
but
What about Anthony?
Um,
Garbage for you? Was that no difference in the graphs?
Once again, I'm gonna default to my answer of I can't actually be bothered to try. I don't really believe it makes a difference. So I think I never tried it really, and I don't really care to try. But on sort of a similar topic, but maybe it's a little off topic also. Have you heard of this program that's a little it's a pretty questionable name, but it's called Minority Clean?
Yes. I was like, what?
Sorry, what?
This is not appropriate.
So, so there's this program called Minority Clean. Okay, YouTube don't ban us, but Minority Clean. I think it's made by like a Japanese guy. Um, what it does? So what it does? This was brought to my attention by the infamous Manuel Jenkins. But what it does is like it somehow it like scrubs like your audio files or something as you listen to them, and it like there's something about it like gets rid of these peaks in the file, so it looks like there's less noise, and it looks like I guess I guess it looks more cleaner, your file, but I have no clue how it works, and I actually asked another guy on Discord who this guy's like kind of crazy, but he can consistently hear the difference between like 320 and FLAC. And I asked him to try it out, and he said like he couldn't do anything even though he tested it before. So I don't know, but maybe they need to try doing that minority clean thing on the SD card.
So wait, does it clean the SD card, or is that like enhancing the file
No,
by
I think
like?
I think it's like a file, like a track or file cleaner type of thing. But I think it's like along the same lines, like of like how people believe maybe your SD card difference in formatting will change like the actual track itself. I don't know.
Well, there's
Well,
there's DSP type things like the Sony HSEE, I don't know whatever it's called, or like the those things where they enhance audio by like filling in missing sound or basically adding reverb or whatever to it, or adding extra noise to the sound, or removing noise from the sorry, not the sound but the
But
music file.
there's DSP, right? There's digital processing, right? So with this same software that Construct is talking about, if you you alter the file digitally, then yeah, I mean some may hear a difference, some people don't. But on the SD card, like you're not changing the files, you're not changing any real digital signal. So wow, like I'm amazed.
I mean, there's also like I know we're getting off the topic of like SD cards now, but there's also like audio file approved like music players called, I think one of them was called like Bughead Emperor, and I have no clue what all of these like music players do, but apparently they are like audio file approved, and yeah, I don't know, it's crazy.
So
What do you mean by audiophile approved? Who approved it?
What you mean, digital player or what?
You tell me. What does audio file
You
approved
know,
mean? I don't know.
You mean software player or what?
Yeah, it's like a straight up a software player. So like instead of getting your bog standard pleb level foobar, you download this one called, I don't know, Bughead Emperor, and it's like maintained by like I think like maybe one or two guys or something, and it somehow magically is better than foobar. I don't know.
So I use
Well,
I use audiophile software. So
Oh well. On the software level, we're talking about decoders here and whether the drivers and stuff. So yeah, I guess there's some clock syncing and whatnot BS there, but is it gonna? It's like this cable thing, right? Your impedance will change more than all this stuff. So like if your driver is broken for whatever sound card you're using, then it's gonna be ass. So
wow,
why bother?
This Bughead software looks really ugly. I just posted a screenshot. It's like, yeah, it looks like it's made in DOS, like made for DOS.
Throw it on the stream. Yeah.
I mean, minimalistic players usually sound the best, right? That's what everyone says, huh?
And here I am just using Spotify.
I'm using Ottervana now, but
What happened to Music Beat?
so Ottervana I use it because it has integrated Qobuz and Tidal, so you can when you search for a song, it'll look locally and also look online, and it'll play it all through the same player.
Right.
It actually, I mean, I think it actually does sound slightly better, but It's
no.
because it uses the hardware decoder like directly from the DAC versus like Music B, I think, which decodes it through the software first.
So I think back to the topic of snake oils, since we're here for snake oils and not audio software players. I think we have pretty much gone through the main, I guess, bulk of snake oil stuff that people usually talk about. There are some pretty obscure ones like maybe tubes, USB cable, ESTs,
And bone conductors.
bone conductors. Yes, we would just like to go through one more before we close it. So maybe something that I think a lot of people have more, I guess, recent months, recent years more focus on, which is ESTs. So I know Ken is quite opinionated on on the ESTs or some of the
I'm not
IEMs.
opinionated on EST itself. Is manufacturers do not know how to implement them. Yeah, I don't think they're bad drivers. I don't think the technology is bad. Yeah.
Right now, people see ESTs in the drivers. ESTs drive up the price quite a lot. So when people see ESTs in drivers, they're like, "Oh wow, this definitely has amazing treble. It's great, sparkling soundstage and airiness to it." So maybe you'd like to just give some of your, I guess, views and things that you have seen from different implementations of ESTs measured.
Yeah, I mean, like I always hear before I measure, I'm like, this thing has not much treble extension, man, and I measure, it's like, oh wow, it measures like ass. So
Maybe a few examples of the things that have ESTs and maybe are not that as implemented.
EJ07, or at least the copy I heard, you know, that while you mentioned that there are magical copies out there, right? So I would like to hear the magical copies, you know. Otherwise, yeah, EJ07. The BVGP0 EST. That's just utter garbage.
The
mess is not much because like
short experiment on mine.
Yeah, the EST itself is not outputting much. So yeah, they can do without, but they had enough treble from the BA. So the problem with like the other the EST implementation that I complain about is they think that putting the EST will have magically treble, and they do not actually have tweeters in the configuration, BA tweeters. So the treble or pretty much most of the treble are handled by the EST, and then it's a complete garbage implementation. Yeah, it's like hardly any treble. But in the case of MEST and other well-designed EST implementations, the BA plays some, you know, quite a fair bit. So even if the EST they don't play much, it's fine. The sound is not broken.
So I think this all boils down to what you say, as in the manufacturers, they do not know how to implement the ESTs, and why is that? Why is it so hard to implement? What are they doing wrong, and what should they do? I guess.
I don't know. I'm not a manufacturer per se, but I have heard good EST implementation. So obviously it is possible. You know, it's scientifically possible. And
EST implementation for you.
Sorry.
IEM. Which IEM?
Sorry, I didn't catch you.
Which IEM to you has good EST implementation?
I think the Elysian Annihilator has good EST implementation. The Kinera Nana has decent, and Vision Years Elysium decent as well. Yeah, this three pretty much. Everything else I've heard, they can do without the EST. It's not a big deal whether they have the EST or not. The bigger problem is with the consumers believing that all these EST IEMs have treble when they don't, because the manufacturers do not use enough BAs for their tweeters and solely rely on an EST, and they do not know how to implement it. That's the big problem there.
So I guess the snake oil portion on this is not whether EST works or not, or whether EST has magic in it, but I guess how the manufacturers implement it. So that's where the snake oil is, I guess. People think that as long as it has EST, it has magical treble. It's not the case.
Yeah, it's what people believe. It's like, I mean, if they believe and they truly believe in it, sure. But like, I mean, if you paint your I don't know, whatever car red and you think it's faster than a Ferrari, sure. Like I'll let you believe it, and I'm not. I mean, I can't say anything about that if you truly believe in it, right? But if you say with science and actual data, then I'll tell you no.
So I guess maybe we can hear from Ant or Construct as well. What are your opinions about ESTs and how well do you think they're implemented? How much snake oil do you think the manufacturers are putting into the marketing of ESTs?
Uh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you want to go first?
Okay, I guess. I don't know. I've only heard there aren't that many. I haven't heard that many EST IEMs. I think Dawn, Elysium, whatever it's called, Visioneers one, a Mest, and I don't know if I heard any other ones off the top of my head.
The
But
treble for those. How do you find the treble?
I don't notice any major differences between that and anything else I've heard from like a BA, to be honest. I think it's a little bit softer maybe if on like the Elysium, but I don't think it's like worldly different. It's not like I'm hearing a pair of stacks versus a planar versus a dynamic driver type thing. It's not like revolutionary. I think if anything, it's very, very subtle, like extremely subtle.
Because I think the marketing has they so far they have always touted it as being revolutionary.
Yeah,
It's marketing speak, right? Like, I think that the worst is like the consumers believe that having EST just automatically, get
makes it a stacks.
tons of travel and tons of travel extension, and they jack up the price. And when if they spend the same amount of money changing those EST to BAs, it would be a better IEM to start with, because you actually have
So
actual travel
do,
extension.
do companies actually say that because it has EST, it's like good, or is this like something that's fabricated by not crazy people, but fabricated by consumers who believe it actually does make a difference, and so they apply that generalization to every IEM with a EST,
Well,
and then
every
all the company needs to do
Marketing
is say you have EST in it.
marketing materials will be usually quite smart, right? They'll market in a way that make the consumer think, well, sometimes without explicitly saying so. Like, I mean, even the new Empire years lineup. I mean, I think they know how to implement stuff. I think they know what they're doing, or at least I hope they know what they're doing. And if they actually use BAs, they can actually get very good sound. But well,
oh yeah,
marketing and market pressure and whatnot, they have to use EST, and they put it in, and I guess I think you made one point. Person A says EST must have a lot, and then post it somewhere. Others who do not know better, have not heard. It's like if you have not heard bad, you do not know what's good, and vice versa, right? You don't have enough experience, and you have not heard hundreds and hundreds of earphones, then sure, they are misinformed, they are naive because they do not know better, then they'll just believe, and then they will spread to the next guy. Hey, this whole and so tells me that this has EST, so it's a lot of treble extension. I think it's a lot of treble extension, and this whole misinformation goes on and on.
yeah.
That sounds like a lot of people I know.
So you just reminded me. I actually heard the Empire Ears Wraith, and that has 4 ESTs, and it has no trouble whatsoever. But this is the. I'm putting the marketing here on the page here.
That thing is worse than the EJ07, yes.
Yeah, I'm putting the marketing on the page. It says, Empire Ear is proud to present the world's first quad electrostatic IEM. And then a little bit further down, it says, like, no details overlooked. World-leading treble extension.
excellent sound quality.
But it actually has no trouble at all. Like after 400 hertz, 4 kilohertz.
So I guess for eStat, basically the snake oil is mostly in the marketing, other than I guess no truths at all to it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
not
hearing
knowing
is one, measuring is one, right? I mean, I don't hear it and I can't measure it. So, well, where's the treble?
It's there. You're just deaf.
Yeah.
I will say, in my experience, I did review the Fearless Dawn a while back, and I totally forgot it actually had a EST in it, or actually multiple ESTs in it.
this channel.
Yeah, it has 2 drivers, 2 ESCs. My opinion is that, like, for at least for IEMs, and unless you're going to something like really like esoteric, like the esoteric, like the stacks, you know, or not even the sure E stats, like the real E stats of your own amp. Like all the stuff about drivers, I don't really care too much about, as long as like what does it truly sound like. Because making these generalizations, I feel like you kind of shoot yourself in the foot when you're like, oh yeah, I gotta have these drivers so it sounds like this way exactly. When I think
when you talk about this, there's a difference between PA drivers and DD drivers for bass.
oh no,
Yeah, but there are bad DD implementation that the bass texture is utter garbage. You know,
I mean, generally DD bass and BA bass are different enough because they're different drivers.
So I guess the example I want to bring up here, I guess, is the T Audio, I think Monarch and Clairvoyance. I actually haven't heard them, but I know we were discussing it on Discord, and from my understanding, the Monarch and the Clairvoyance, the way their bass is built, they have the DD, but they've also stacked up some BAs on it, so it sounds like amazing with that combination. But I think there's another IEM that uses the same DD without the BA stacked on top, and it's not as good, basically.
Is that Legacy 5?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember, but
yeah.
Legacy 5.
That goes to shows that the DD use is utter garbage, to the point that the BA is actually trying to save the day, right?
Probably they're using the DD to give the quantity, and then the BA to give the quality.
Probably the DD to get the delay, the decay, and the BA to get the punch and the texture.
I guess
because BA is cleaner in most cases, right?
Okay, great. So I think we've covered quite a few topics on the different snake oils. There are, of course, many more. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Maybe not, depending on how many more topics on snake oil we can find. But I think for today, we probably might want to end it here, Anthony.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Any Q&A, or we're done?
I don't think there's much questions. I thought I'll interweave them.
There's one.
Oh, okay.
There's one about Mester Z1R.
Yeah, I want to ask how. So we all say best is best, but how best is best? You know.
That's best.
Well, I mean, I did not rank it higher than a few things, right? So.
No, it's a joke. Unique Melody, sponsor us, please. I'm pulling a rush here.
I didn't get any response yet, so I guess I'm not getting my first Chi-Fi. No, I thought, it'll be cool to get my first Chi-Fi that is like actually decent.
I'll loan you the unis for a while.
Nah, it's okay. Okay, yeah. I mean, last point to make about the EST, like, my own customs have more treble extension than most of the EST implementations out there, with the exception of those 3 that I mentioned earlier on. So as simple as that.
Okay, so I guess in summary, manufacturers don't know shit about implementing ESTs.
Ooh, that's a hot take there.
Okay, great. So I think on that we will end this. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks for joining us for the 1 hour plus, and it's almost 2 a.m. here in Singapore, and I'll be heading to bed after this. Okay.
All right.
Good night, guys.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ended.